Hi guys, my name is Mircea Lungu. I'm from the IT University in Copenhagen, and this is a presentation of a paper that I co-wrote with Nora Hollenstein from the Copenhagen University. The paper is about estimating reading time from user interactions in the context of a platform for extensive reading in foreign languages, with the goal of providing feedback to the learners, or as we say here, to report language learning progress to the learners. Let us quickly start. The context of this work is this platform called Zigu.org, which is a platform for extensive reading in foreign languages and for personalized exercises, what we as a package envision as being a personalized textbook for people reading in foreign languages and studying vocabulary at the moment. The four most important features of the platform are daily discovery of online texts. Actually, multiple times a day, we have a crawler that looks out to find news and blogs and any new content in the language of interest for every user. We support a dozen or so languages. We have preference-based text recommendations. The user can specify the topics that are interested in, the keywords, and the difficulty level, such that what they get recommended is more likely to be interesting and accessible for them. Once they find a text that's interesting for them, the platform can either show it in situ, if it's maybe a text that's uploaded by their teacher. I forgot to mention there's also a teacher module that allows the teacher to send materials to his class and to observe the readings of the class. The teacher can also observe the free reading of the class, actually. But if the text is part of a news website or a blog, then what we normally do is we send the reader to that blog, to the news website, and then with the help of a browser extension that works for Chrome and Firefox and Edge, we clean up all the mess on the page. We leave only the text and maybe the top image to give a sense of context. And then in that cleaned up and sanitized version of the article, the user has very easy translation and pronunciation at hand to make their reading more fun. Finally, there's based on the past interaction with texts, we provide personalized exercises. There's multiple exercise types that are testing words that the system has seen that the user does not know. One of the questions that we were asking ourselves is how to provide good progress to the users. We want to give them feedback that's meaningful for them, not fake gold coins and stuff that doesn't make any sense for the users. We want to give them real and meaningful feedback. And one most basic meaningful feedback that we think we can give is to estimate the reading time. It's well known that users very often overestimate their involvement, so reminding them of how much time they spend might be a good incentive for them to put more time or to just feel good about the time that they spend. In principle, we thought this should be not hard to compute. Turns out that it's not so easy, and you'll see immediately why. What can we have about the users that helps us to estimate reading time? Two kinds of events. We have application events, like the things that you see on the left side of the screen. When a user opens an article, closes an article, translates, pronounces, likes or unlikes an article, all these things the application can track. There's also browser-based events. When the user interacts with the page, it scrolls the text. One of the most important events, actually, you'll see is whether a tab loses or gains focus, right? The tab loses focus means our reader pretty much stopped reading and went to do something else. We don't know what, but surely they are not reading. Gaining focus is the opposite. We analyze in the paper two strategies for computing reading time. First one is just the time between opening an article and closing the article. And the second one is a more refined version of this. So it's the full time minus the time that's out of focus because the user was not on the tab. So very, very likely he was not reading. And the idle time, like the user could still be staying on the time, could be still staying on the tab, but they might just have went to make a coffee and forgot to come back, right? So after a number of minutes of user complete inaction, the reading time is paused. Let me show you an example of user behavior. We have here a user who has 26 minutes between the time that they open the article and the time that they close the article. Now, the first annotation there on the left, you see, says, our user is idle for 3 minutes. And then after they start re-interacting with the article, you see on the right with orange that the first interaction is they're losing focus. They're going away from the article, from the text, for 19 minutes. And then they come back and they do a few more translations. So looking at full time is a very different picture than looking at focus time. As a very, very extreme example, I found this other user that constantly switches in and out of focus. As you can see here, basically loses focus, comes back, does a translation, goes away for 59 seconds, comes back, another translation, goes away for 19 seconds, another translation, goes away for 40 seconds, does another translation. We don't know what they do on the other side, right? But it's very, very likely that they are probably involved with some very tempting social media. Anyway, we have a hard time counting the time they're not in the tab as reading time, as you can imagine. What we see here actually is like there's in this particular user, this was the most extreme we found in the data set. We have 90 events more of, similar to what you see here. Now, I mentioned the data set. There's a public data set with more than 500 users, more than 1 year, more than 3 languages. And then, because we have so much data, we also published it. It's anonymized. So if any of you is interested, contact me or Nora. Will be happy to help you get started. At the same time, there's a link here, which is already, I think, is quite well documented. So you can also start there. If you need help, contact us. Doing some data analysis, we see that there are strong correlations between all kinds of metrics and the two types of reading time, right? So word count seems to be strongly correlated. No surprise. The longer the article, the more it takes to read. Number of translations is also correlated. The more somebody needs to work with the text, the more time they spend on it. That's also quite intuitive. Time to first translation is very interesting. It seems that the longer the time it takes for somebody until they encounter the first word that they need to translate, the more time they spend on the text, right? Which is very, very interesting. It's kind of telling us that, the longer it takes until the first word, the more likely the text is easy for the reader. So the more likely the text is easy for the reader, the more time they spend reading it, right? So this is an intuition that it's actually important that we provide the right difficulty for the readers. If the text is of the right difficulty, they'll spend more time on the text. Finally, what you see on the last line there is full time and focus time are actually strongly correlated. Still, we believe that the focus time is much more useful to report. This is much more detailed in the paper. We invite you to read it. Finally, to wrap up this short presentation, the future work is we want to bring the heavy guns. We want to apply more machine learning to predict reading time and reading speed. We want to investigate more user reading patterns, what you've seen there. We need to understand better, are those exceptions, like the readers that constantly drop out of reading and coming back? Is that a pattern? Is it a generation thing? Is it the users that we have now? There's a lot of high school students because a few high schools in the Netherlands are using the system in their classrooms. There's a few university students. It's not clear what it's not clear what we can predict. It's not clear what the users do when they get out of focus. But we have this wealth of data. We need to investigate it much more, basically. We want to also take into account the personal information about the reader, such that we can personalize the reading time prediction. Next step would be as a long-term feedback on somebody's progress would be their reading speed, right? If you're telling somebody, it seems to us that your reading speed is getting, your reading faster than 6 months ago in the language that you're learning, that might be motivational, right? This is not so easy as it seems. I can tell you more about why reading speed estimation is not so easy, but contact me if you think that's interesting. And finally, although it's implemented, we have a dashboard that both the readers, and in the case the readers are part of a classroom, also their teacher can see the reading time, you know, and the dashboard shows it by week, by month, by year, by day, I think. Although this is deployed and users can see their reading time, focus time, by the way, we did not study enough whether users seeing their reading time actually impacts their behavior. Are they more motivated? Are they less motivated? And so on. So these are questions that we'd like to investigate in the future. If you want to talk more about any of this, contact either me or Nora, try out the system, or watch a video. All these things are links on the slides. I hope that the slides will be uploaded as PDF and you can click on them. Otherwise, write to us and we'll be happy to talk more about this topic. We'll be happy to talk more about this topic at the conference. And we hope that we get to talk to those of you who are interested in this at some point.